Hi there, I'm Michelle, and today I'm going to be showing you how I colored this little kitty here. I used the Tuxedo Black Memento ink. Now when I'm getting started with my Copics, I know a lot of people go by the number and that's how they figure out which markers they want to use together, which is great. However, that doesn't necessarily work for me. I have my own style, my own way to color, and I suggest you find what works best for you too. So for me, I knew I wanted a gray kitty, so the first thing I do is start sketching out my colors here to kind of see which color palette I want to use together for this image. So I just lay my color down. I definitely don't want to use that. It's got too much lavender in that gray. Okay, so I've laid down my colors for my palette that we're going to use right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is go in with my lightest color of marker. And I'm just going to gently start adding color to my kitty here. Okay, so I've got my initial layer down. That is C1. Now I'm going to go to my C3. And I'm going to start pulling in some of these areas where you'd see more shadows. Fingers are probably going to be a little darker in his tail here. Her tail. My kitty's a girl. Now the one thing you have to keep remembering, or you have to remember while you keep working, is that your colors are going to blend together and they're going to soften also. It's kind of nerve-wracking when you put the color down and it seems so intense, but it does soften up quite a bit. And then the great thing too is I can go back to my cool gray number 1, which is my C1, and lay down another color on top of it, another layer on top of my gray that I just did, and those colors are going to blend together. And it's going to create a smoother blend, a smoother finish right there. Now if you like those lines showing, which I do, you can keep it a little more choppy. If you want a nice smooth blend, what they do is they lay down a layer of color, and when you go in with your next color, you use these circles. And then you go back with your light color and you keep those circles going and you do that blend, and that will keep you from getting any of those lines that you see. But I have to tell you, I kind of like those lines, so I don't worry about it too much. I don't particularly have to have a really smooth finish. Okay, now I'm going to go to my C5. I'm just testing it a little, even though I know what it looks like. It looks so dark to me, and I'm always afraid to go in with this layer. So I'm going to be really gentle here and just start sprinkling it in. Get some of the little fur. Get under the little neck there. This is really going to be my shadow color, so I'm going to want to lay it in those shadow areas. And remember that it is going to lighten, and I can go back in with my lighter colors and move this color too, which will soften it as well. Put some on the kitty's ears here. Okay, and I'm actually going to I'm going to wait and do that. I was going to go ahead and put some on the whiskers, but I think I'm going to wait and pull that. That's a little darker than I normally go, so I'm trying something new here. Now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to grab my lightest color again, and I'm going to go back in and go over that with my lighter color. And one thing that's really interesting is with some of these colors, when you lay down a line of color, you can almost go back in with your lighter color and you can push it. If it starts to bleed over, you can push it. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but right here where I've gone over it with that lighter color, it's gotten lighter on this end. So even though I put down that dark color, I can keep going over it with my lighter color and pulling some of that lightness back into my image if you get a little nervous there or worried or want to brighten it up a little bit. I'm laying down lines when I go. You don't have to do it like this. Again, you could do the circular. I really think that you just need to find what works best for you and embrace that. I think I've watched dozens and dozens of videos on coloring with the Copic markers, and I have to say that everyone has their own style and their own techniques, and I think they've just discovered what's worked best for them, and they embrace that. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is find out what works best for you and enjoy perfecting your own technique. My darker color here, this always scares me going in with because it's so dark. And he's pretty dark already, but I'm just going to lay a bead right down here, right in here. And remember too, he's still going to lighten some. This kitty still isn't going to stay as dark as he is right here. So let's see, I keep looking over here to this little guy thinking, how did I go from that to that? And I'm not really sure, but I know it all started like this. For some reason, I think I may have only used 3 of these markers on that other kitty, but I'm pretty sure I went in with this darker one. Then I picked up my lighter gray again, my lightest gray, and I'm just working that dark gray. I'm actually taking this one and I'm pushing it towards the kitty's face because I want to push that color over, because I do want it to blend a little bit more. It's so strong. So down here I'm going to push it towards, well actually I'm pulling it. I'm pulling it towards the kitty's tummy. Trying to soften it up there. I'm going to pull it into his leg. And that's what's really neat about the Copic markers, is that you can push and pull the color and create these blends and these designs and all kinds of great things with it. So here's how I got to my kitty, and he's still, you can't even see him, can you? Here's how I got to my kitty, and he's still really, really wet. So once the image dries and that ink dries, he's going to lighten some. Now, for my embellishments, I do them the same way with my colors. I just look for colors that I think, I just lay the color down on my work pad to try to get an idea of what I want to work with. And for me, this is how I get my color palettes. I just start laying the color down and then trying, whoo, that's neon. And then I try to decide which colors I find complementary. I'm just going to go ahead and grab these 2. And that was my lightest one. So then I just do the same thing. I'm just going to lay my lightest color down here, just really lightly and gently. This isn't the same color combination I used on this cupcake, the finished one, but it's the same concept. And then I just went around the lines a little, like this. Just followed the seams. I knew there'd be some shadows underneath. Now, because I just colored this, my kitty's still wet. So I need to be really careful because these colors will start to bleed together. So at this point, I would typically put my heat tool on. If I was finished coloring him, I would put my heat tool on him and just dry that ink a little bit so that it will stay in place and I don't have to worry about my colors bleeding together when I don't want them to. And now I've got my lighter color again, and then I just go right back over here. You can kind of see how I've got that bled over. Add a little touch of color to the kitty's ears. I don't know what this is going to look like, but we'll try it. So that's how I use my Copic markers, and that's how I ended up with this image and this finished piece right here. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope that you found it helpful.